Tonight's program is Scandinavian Athletic Club, celebrating 100 years of Scandinavian heritage in soccer in Shrewsbury by Karin Underkoffler. Can you learn about how the Scandinavian Athletic Club came to be? It's been 100 years since the Scandinavian culture and soccer, all taking place on Lake Street in Shrewsbury. This PowerPoint presentation as accompanying photographs from the archives of the Scandinavian Athletic Club. Karin Underkoffler is a member of the Scandinavian Athletic Club, a SAC Spelmanslag. Her grandparents, her parents, and other family members have been affiliated with the Scandinavian Athletic Club since its origination. She is also a lifetime member of the Shrewsbury Historical Society and has served on the executive board for over 10 years. Go ahead.
Welcome to my presentation on the Scandinavian Athletic Club, celebrating 100 years of Scandinavian heritage and soccer in Shrewsbury. The Scandinavian Athletic Club is located on a parcel of land at 438 Lake Street in Shrewsbury. 2024 marked 100 years since the incorporation of the social club known as SAC. So how did Massachusetts end up with a large Swedish population? To understand this, we have to go back to the beginning. Back to the land of the midnight sun and the Viking Age. Vikings were tough, they loved combat, and would explore and raid far and wide. Some raids were for plunder, while others were for setting up trade routes. According to Icelandic sagas, Leif Erikson was the first to discover the North American coast approximately half a millennium before Christopher Columbus. Archaeologists have found evidence of their Viking settlements to substantiate this claim in Newfoundland, Canada. Later, in the 1600s, after a 6-month sea journey, the first Swedes arrived in America in Delaware. They purchased land and built log cabins. This colony at Delaware was the first step in Scandinavian immigration to America. In the late 1800s, most of the Swedes coming to the U.S. were farmers, driven by economic hardship, crop failures, religious persecution, and political unrest in Sweden. Most of these immigrants settled in the upper Midwest, primarily Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, and Michigan. They found the terrain and climate similar to their homeland. Pictured on the right are the children of the 17th governor of Minnesota, dressed in their Swedish folk costumes, circa 1911. Pictured on the left are my children in very similar costumes, showing what they would look like if in full color. The first Scandinavian Worcester was a teenage musician named Carl Charles Hansen in 1868. He began as a piano tuner who soon owned his own music store on Main Street. He was composing at age 12 and later wrote a grand opera in Worcester. He also was the first conductor of a Scandi Worcester chorus. His tombstone reads, First Swedish Settler in Worcester, 1868. Franklin Norton and Frederick Hancock arrived and started a profitable pottery business. When they heard that 4 skilled potters were to arrive in Boston from Sweden, they met them and persuaded them to come to Worcester. Sven Poulsen was one of the newcomers, and he soon sent word to his sweetheart, Katrina Jeppsson, in Sweden. Never underestimate the power of the family letter, as seen in this 1881 portrait aptly named the America Letter. The authors reported that they had it so good that news of American success would spread from village to village. Katrina, in turn, after arriving in Worcester, influenced her brother, John Jeppsson, to leave Sweden. In 1885, the group set out to manufacture the first mass-produced, precision-made grinding wheel to fulfill the U.S. manufacturing industry's growing need for abrasives. Sven Poulsen is credited for inventing the grinding wheel by mixing clay, emery, and water. Norton Abrasives became the world's largest manufacturer and supplier of abrasives for commercial applications, household, and automated refinishing usage, and it all started with pottery. The largest settlement of Swedes was in the Greendale section of Worcester. They were primarily Swedes recruited by John Jeppsson to work in his factories. Across town, Ichabod Washburn created a new technique for drawing wire and set up wire factories called the Southworks, Northworks, and Central Works. The Northworks building is still standing on Grove Street. In the 1850s, Worcester was the premier wire-producing city in the world. The Northwick station was one of the only manufacturers of wire in the nation. In 1870, he patented barbed wire, and they needed skilled workers for their factories. His son-in-law was Philip Lewis Moen. He negotiated new contracts in Sweden for soft steel and recruited skilled workers while there. Philip's son, also named Philip, spent 2 years apprenticing in Sweden to learn the steel trade and to recruit Swedes for the Worcester mills, which at that time was the largest industry in town. In 1899, American Steel and Wire purchased Washburn and Moen Manufacturing Company and later combined with the U.S. Steel Corporation. The Swedish population in Worcester continues to grow due to the recruitment efforts of John Jeppson for the Norton Company and the Moens for Washburn Moen. By the late 1800s, the census reflects over 1,000 citizens of Swedish nationality, and by 1920, the Swedish population of Worcester was estimated or 20,000, or about 1 in 5 of the Worcester population. That's a photo of my great-uncle Gunnar Larsson with his son Knut on his shoulders on the Stockholm, emigrating to America in 1922. Gunnar even saved the menu from the Stockholm on the right. This is what Gunnar was willing to leave for a new start in America. His first pay stub shows that at 15 years old, he worked 60 hours for 6 kronar, which is about $3.33. He is pictured above on the left, the factory in Torboda on the right showing the workers, then the building. The Worcester Swedes also created their own sick benefit societies and opened their own cemetery and credit union. The Scandi Credit Union originated in 1915 and became one of the 4 largest banks in Worcester as Guarantee Bank and Trust. The Swedish National Federation was started in 1903 and is still active today. For example, they sponsor the SAC Midsummer and Santa Lucia festivals. They also give scholarship awards. It held meetings in the old Governor's Mansion at 89 Lincoln Street, later removed for building Route 290. The mansion was famous for visits by Charles Dickens and Prince Wilhelm of Sweden. SAC first started as a group of young men gathered at Reinings Innens Hall to form a sports club, a space on Pursley Street in Worcester. The name of the new club was Skandinaviska Gymnastik och Idrottshuben. Idrottshuben translates to the sports hub. Here is page 1 by the recording secretary of one of their meetings in 1923. It is written in Swedish. In fact, all the meeting notes were in Swedish until the late 50s. Bror Floden was elected chairman. Bror was described as a leading member who had participated in various athletic contests in Sweden and was mainly instrumental in organizing the club. But they had trouble renting meeting space and training fields. They all thought they should consider their own meeting room and soccer field. They were also advised that to own property, the club should be incorporated. To the right is a newspaper article and track and field trophy announcing the club was having a track and field event at the Oval. 9 track and field events were planned, including a tug of war. Soccer was also played at the Oval. In 1924, Gunnar Stark, Carl Berg, Goddard Johnson, Oscar Wester, Ernest England, Roland Ekholm, and David Polson obtained a charter for a corporation under the name of Scandinavian Athletic Club of Worcester. The charter states, for the purpose of encouraging athletic exercise and yachting, for promoting and furthering interest in various forms of athletics and sports, to participate in athletic meets and competitions, to own real estate and personal property for said purpose, and to do any and all things incident to and in furtherance of above stated purposes. Gunnar Stark was the first SAC president. Another Gunnar, my great-uncle, was president in 1935. The club was interested in all kinds of sports, but especially soccer. They were nicknamed the Scans. In the summer of 23, they had 2 teams playing in the Central Mass Soccer League. This is a photo of the 1924 team with a child mascot sitting in the middle on the floor. I thought that was interesting. The SAC 24 and 26 teams. In the coming years, there were not only Swedes on the team, but other Scandinavian nationalities too. such as Finns and Danes, Norwegians, and an Icelander who were important players. This is a picture of the 25 to 26 soccer team. The Scans in the 20s and 30s were one of the dominant teams in Massachusetts. The team also competed in Connecticut and New York. To the right is a 1925 soccer trophy showing an old soccer ball with laces. 1927 newspaper article showing SAC club members. The Lundquist brothers, Stig and Ivar, started playing soccer for SAC in the early 20s and continued for 3 decades into the 50s. Stig also served as club president from 55 to 57. Turn of the century Worcester had 5 hospitals, 4 colleges, 80 churches, 9 of them Swedish, 3 Salvation Army Corps, 2 of them Swedish, and 4 synagogues to serve Worcester citizens. Lake Quinsigamon was a source of recreation, along with Worcester's 5 parks and a steamboat company. Many lodges and clubs dotted its shores, such as Svea Gilly and the Engelbrekt Club. Sports clubs, such as the Swedish Gymnastics Club and the Viking Cycle Club, also had a start in Worcester. Next, a committee was appointed to look for a suitable place for the club. It seemed like a logical choice to be near the lake and the other clubs, yet own a big piece of property. On August 17, 1928, the club purchased a cottage and 7 acres of land on Lake Street in Shrewsbury from Mr. Howe. The cottage is still there, having been built in the early 20th century. To the right is the Mass Cultural Resource Information System listing, or MACRIS. Apparently the house number is no longer 430, but 432 Lake Street. The other building has been described as a barn. In 1928, they were estimated to have about 150 to 200 members. Through thick and thin, they never stopped playing soccer. The team photo is labeled 1928 to 1929. The soccer field and running track were made by manual labor. The soccer pitch was considered one of the best fields in New England. The old barn was converted into locker rooms for the soccer players. Here's a great photo showing their teamwork. And this guy right here is smiling through it all. The groves will be used for picnics and outings in the summertime, and the fields will be used as a recreational and community center for various Scandinavian activities. An announcement poster of opening day celebrations at the fields of the SAC Park on Lake Street. To the far right is the cottage and Lake Street. Opening day celebrations not only included a soccer match, but also a wheelbarrow race, as depicted in this photo taken by the Telegram and Gazette. Next, plans were made to add a dance pavilion. In 1929, the contract to build the pavilion was signed. However, the Great Depression struck and money was scarce. Many members donated large sums of money to continue building. The floor was laid by men from New York, and no posts were erected in the dance hall. Money was raised by having dances in Worcester and from loans from members. Instead of paying back these loans, these men were given life memberships. It was through a lot of work and determination that the club managed to succeed. The women of SAC belonged to a group called the Ladies Auxiliary. In the early years, they sold coffee, pickled herring sandwiches, and hot dogs at the games and the dances to help offset costs. The purpose of the auxiliary in this 1966 pamphlet is stated simply as, to perform the duties in the kitchen. Here's an example of later offerings during midsummer by the Ladies Auxiliary of SAC. The men clearly helped out with the food work. Of note is a particular volunteer in the back row named Radar Pedersen. Right there.
Oh, no, front row. Third from the left, front row.
Oh.
With his elbow there.
Oh. Thank you, Hans. Right there.
Yep.
This one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Radar was born in Oslo, Norway. He served in the Norwegian military during World War II. He worked on engines and sailed on the Norwegian America Line cruise ships. He landed in New York in 1953 and emigrated to the U.S. It is rumored that he came right to SAC Park. He was on the SAC soccer team from then until 1960, possibly playing on the prestigious 57 team that won the Mass State Cup. He later became caretaker to the fields and raised his family in the 432 Lake Street cottage. He is a past officer and served the club tirelessly for 7 decades. In 2017, he was honored with a proclamation from the town of Shrewsbury, and the SAC Park soccer field was dedicated and renamed the Radar Pedersen Field. This article states that the first midsummer in 1929 at the park was the formal opening of the new recreation hall and dance pavilion. There was a gymnastic exhibition by the Svea Gymnastics Club of Boston, vocal solo by Miss Lillian Hanson, and songs by the Thule Male Chorus, directed by C. Arthur Johnson. Other sporting events included a tug-of-war between the John Erickson Lodge and the Scandinavian Athletic Club, the 100-yard dash, and the high jump. Pictured on the far right is Stig Lundquist winning the high jump competition. There he is right here. He's very talented. The first dance was held in 1929 with a Varsity 7 orchestra. This may be a midsummer gathering. Note the large flags on the right. Old cars parked in the field at SAC Park. Midsummer is a celebration at the end of June. On this day, the sun is at its height in the Scandinavian countries. The night is the shortest of the year. Houses are decorated with flowers and birch branches in an old belief that the spirit of the birch tree will bless the family. We make flower wreaths as a symbol of joy, nature, and community. It's a tradition that goes back centuries. At the park, a midsummer pole is constructed. After it is raised, we all cheer and then everyone joins hands and we dance around the pole. These traditional songs and folk dances have been handed down from one generation to the next. The Swedish Folk Dance Club of Worcester were participants in many midsummer festivals, starting with their formation in 1941. And of course, they're still playing soccer and winning games. As a 1939 article states on the right, undefeated in 5 starts, the 1930 Kungsholm Lodge Cup, and the 1933-34 Carson Memorial Cup. This is a photo that was just bought recently to the club. This is an SAC soccer team from the 1930s. The definitive year is unknown, but we know that this man is identified as Erland Henry Johan Pearson, and that should be him there. He is kneeling second from the left. He came to the U.S. in 1929 and was in the Worcester area on the Scan soccer team for about 10 years. Erland may have been part of the wins for the Kungsholm and Carson Memorial Cup on the previous slide. Most Scandinavian festivals involve food, music, and dance. This photo from 1939 shows my grandfather's group in Swedish folk costume on the grounds of 89 Lincoln Street, Worcester. They would provide Swedish folk music at events at SNF and the SAC Park. He added a few more players in this photo before they headed off to play at a Vasa festival in Norumbega Park. 1940 SAC soccer teams. The article on the left talks about a match between the Scans and the Lusitanos. Even though the photo is in black and white, the uniforms have changed to incorporate the large S logo and a sash-like band. Article on the right states they won the match. During World War II, sailors on Allied ships arriving in Boston were looking for a chance to play soccer against an American club. SAC was happy to host these teams. Many of the Scans players had entered the service too. The club budget was meager. On September 10th, 1941, cash on hand was 72 cents. 167 spectators paid $51.05 for tickets at the September game later that week. They needed a minimum of $27 to pay for gas and lunch for the away game against the Boston Celtics. In 1941, a referee charged $5 a game and a policeman paid $3, and 5% of the gate went to the soccer league. They made budget that game with a profit of $14.22. Uniforms were provided, including shoes. The shoes were leather, ankle high, and had a reinforced round toe. 4 leather cleats were nailed into the sole on a metal last that every team carried. The nails had a way of working through the soles halfway through the game and were the source of bloody feet. The shoes cost about $10 a pair. On May 2nd, 1941, the team paid out $3.92 to buy cloth for soccer pants and $3.42 for sewing. This is a 1948 caricature from a newspaper about a soccer game at SAC and the proper equipment needed to play in the top frame. This is the bottom half of the drawing from the previous slide, which also shows the date, 1948. This photo of my grandfather's musical group was taken at SAC Park for midsummer. This may have been the converted barn, which was used as a locker room. Inside the dome at SAC Park, notice the rough, unfinished walls. My father and uncle were still teenagers. This is the last picture of the group in costume, I think primarily due to the war. Christmas was the next celebration at the Swedish National Federation on Lincoln Street. A concert and Christmas party, December 12th, 1943. All the music was provided by Larson's musical entertainers, with Gus Larson as director. All my uncles are listed as performers in the program, and my father is listed as playing a trumpet solo. He is pictured above playing the violin. This was my father's last time playing with a group before he was inducted into the Navy the very next day, December 13th. Many of the Scans players had entered the service too. The team in the 1940s was made up of older players working in the defense industries or very young men. There were two fathers and son combination, the Lundquists and the Dolls, on this 1944 team picture. The Lundquists, Ivar and his son on the left, that's them right there, and then his Ivar's brother Stieg, we already talked about Stieg right there, and then the Dolls, Alex and George, right there. Lost my head again. Midsummer at SAC Park, showing some of the dancers in their province folk costumes from the Swedish Folk Dance Club. Norma Alberg on the left, Margaret Agerholm center, and Sonia Westerback on the right. Margaret in the center, my mother's outfit, is from the province of Värmland, indicated by the 3 red stripes on her black skirt and apron. They performed as a group all over New England and lasted approximately 30 years. Midsummer at SAC Park, showing the Swedish folk dance group of Worcester. At one time, my father was the director. This photo was taken at the rehearsal space on Main Street in Worcester, 47 to 48. I think my father traded in his fiddle for a dance partner after the war. This is what they did as a couple when they were dating. My parents were not yet married in these photos. SAC is a social club, and many members will tell you of stories of meeting their partner this way. The Swedish Folk Dance Club of Worcester. Margaret Agerholm in her Värmland folk dress, and Carl Larsson in a traditional Swedish costume on the field at SAC Park. Midsummer, probably 1947. That's a sheet of my father's small cards to organize the dance, and the newspaper article on the right talks about the Midsummer Festival at SAC. My mother and father are pictured on the left, and my mother's cousin Girlie is next with Oscar Lundquist on the far right. The Scans played in both local and state industrial leagues. A number of Worcester businesses also had teams, Norton's, Morgan, and Whittle, among others. It was in the early 50s that the Scans began playing area college teams. They initially beat the college teams, but a few years later, teams like Harvard would win. 57 was a good year for the SAC team. For the first time in the post-war history, they captured the Massachusetts State Cup. 1954, congratulations to the club from Sweden's National Sports Federation. The document says, in appreciation for many years of priceless work for Swedish athletic expansion and prospering of fellow countrymen in the USA. Swedish Folk Dance Club of Worcester marching out onto the field during Midsummer at SAC Park. Midsummer at SAC Park, showing the Folk Dance Club in full color on the field, and you can see the house on Lake Street in the background. Here's your Vice President, Christine Gustafson at SAC Park, riding a pony with our Mormor and our mother Margaret Larson, still in her folk dance outfit. The club sponsors many different events. Here in 1965, there was a political event with Governor Volpe outside under the wooden pavilion. He was a 2-time governor of Mass, U.S. Secretary of Transportation, and finally, U.S. Ambassador to Italy. The 1967 Midsummer SAC Park program booklet, showing full-page ads from Norton's and United Steelworkers of America. Nearly 100 years since John Jepson and the Mowens started recruiting Swedes to Worcester, their companies are still supporting local Scandinavians. SAC-sponsored basketball team, the dates unknown. Midsummer 67 and 68 included the band Kumbo Gupen. The top left article shows them being given the keys to the city of Worcester in 67. Just as in 67 and 68, I don't know why it's jumping, sorry. Many Swedish performers have been guests of the club. Here in 2024, Lena Johnson, a Swedish Grammy Award winner, was welcomed for a concert. Lena is in all of the pictures, but featured on the right here with the director of our SAC Spielmanslag, Marilyn Butler. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, right there. This is an agreement dated 1970 between the club and Christopher Borglund to appoint him caretaker from March 1st, 1970 to March 1st, 1971. He was paid with free rental of this property, electricity, and telephone. The club still owns the house, but is now considered a rental property. This is marked the state championship team, 1970, 1971, 1972. I could not find this trophy at SAC. This team photo has the same uniforms as the previous, could be another state championship soccer team winner from the 70s. I could not find that trophy at SAC either, but it doesn't mean it's not there. There are just so many. What was located was the 1971 state championship trophy. Thank you, Hans. In 1969, SAC held their first Western Jamboree or Family Day at the park. This event would go on for decades. This is a program from the third annual Family Field Day. The program states 10:30 to 6, children's games and kiddie rides. 2 to 6 is a country western jamboree with music and entertainment along with food offerings. 50th anniversary of SAC advertising, dancing, the first Saturday of the month, and newly renovated clubhouse, open year-round. Carvinity plate advertising, 50 years of soccer in Shrewsbury. 1976, SAC hosts another Western Jamboree and Family Field Day, and the 73rd Midsummer Festival, among other events. America celebrates the bicentennial, and the Swedish National Federation hosts a float in the Worcester Parade, honoring the contributions of Swedes. Among the grainy 1970s photos is myself and my mother, Margaret Larson, in our folk costumes. The 77 program booklet states, you all right? States that SAC is a nonprofit organization. They sponsor youth hockey teams, junior and senior soccer teams, Little League baseball, bowling, and horseshoe teams. It also mentions that the first field day events are mission-free. Proceeds from the ads, sponsors, and boosters sold in the program booklet are used to sponsor the youth teams. Congratulations proclamation from the Swedish National Sports Federation for the 50-year club celebration. Many renovations over the years occurred in the Dome Room and other buildings on the property. It was advertised in a 1975 program that now open for public functions, showers, wedding receptions, luncheons, clam bakes, shop parties, church groups, and various types of activities indoor and out. And P.S., we have our own catering service. Pictured above is our president, Eric Larson, with his new bride at his wedding reception in the Dome Room at SAC Park. The 1984 SAC-sponsored Shrewsbury Babe Ruth baseball team. So not only were there soccer matches and track meets, but also cribbage tournaments, horseshoe competitions, hockey, baseball, basketball, and even an accordion club in 1936. Midsummer 1988 at the park. At this time, there was only the Swedish flag flying. In the years to come, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Iceland, and the U.S. flags would be added. SAC Park Midsummer with the Vasa Viking Children's Club in 1992. Ann T&G article from 1995. Shrewsbury resident Norma Belden is pictured above in her Swedish National Day costume. Right there. Mm-hmm. Susan Johnson, receiver of the 2006 Heritage Award from the Svenska National Förbundet, is wearing her blue and yellow Swedish National Day dress on your left. This dress was designed in 1903 but popularized by Queen Sylvia in the 1980s. Swedes celebrate June 6 because it's the date which Gustav Vasa was elected king in 1523 and a former flag day after the dissolution of the Union of Sweden and Norway in 1905. The dress incorporates blue and yellow colors of the Swedish flag and symbolic daisies. It is worn by all ages. These are my great nieces. June 6th in Worcester is celebrated by the club raising the Swedish flag at City Hall. 1998, SAC celebrates the 75th anniversary of its incorporation. The paper states, today, the Scandinavian Athletic Club has evolved into a social club, and SAC Park is frequently the site of dances, weddings, barbecues, and other gathers. SAC also has remained true to its roots as a soccer club, hosting youth games and tournaments. Note there are many more flagpoles and flags flying of all the Scandinavian countries, including the American flag. Over here. Let's see them. Coach Carroll led summer soccer camps at SAC Park for over 15 years. He is pictured holding a Worcester area Twilight Soccer League Division Champ 1992 trophy. My son went for 2 summers to his camp. He literally came home looking like the picture on the right. No shoe. Those shorts were white, but he won a trophy by the end of the week for best in competition. I think Coach did a great job. Some updated photos of the club's current amenities. The upstairs in the pavilion can accommodate 300. The downstairs lounge can seat 120. The covered outdoor pavilion can accommodate 600, not to mention the spacious grounds and fields. 2001 SAC Club was put in the Massachusetts State Hall of Fame for a 78-year legacy, highlighting a 1946 international game against Djurgården, Sweden, a 1957 Mass State Cup winner, the 1970 Boston District League champion, 1971 quarter-finalist USSF Open Cup. In the decades to follow, SAC teams have competed throughout Massachusetts in different age levels. And since 1990, SAC has been very involved with youth soccer. They have promoted tournaments at their club and held soccer camps. They also have sponsored Maple Premier teams. There are many, many trophies at SAC, but I was very happy to find this one that says for the Maple Spring Soccer season of 2000, the SAC girls under 11 team were Division I champions. Pictured is the cake from the 80th anniversary of the club in 2004. SAC Scholarship Dinner in 2007. 2008 flyer for spring dances at SAC Park since 1929, and a Swedish pancake breakfast flyer in 2009, 2011, and 2012. In 2013, they celebrate the 90th anniversary of the first meeting. The schedules of events and performers were similar to the 100th, and that the social hour occurred under the pavilion, musical pieces, and then dinner, dancing, and a performance by the Hale sisters. 2014 featured an article in the Telegram Gazette talking about midsummer activities at SAC Park. Pictured here are Larry Stinson, Robin Forsberg, Dion Larson Parka, Sio Christensen, Marion Grunberg, and Anna Meyer Blodgett showing off their dance moves. Another great festival that we have not covered yet is the Feast of Santa Lucia, held on December 13th. This festival is held in the memory of Lucia, a young Sicilian girl who was martyred for her faith. On St. Lucia Day, the oldest daughter of the household rises early and dresses in a long white gown. With a wreath of green leaves on her head set into a crown of lighted candles, Lucia wakes up each member of the family and serves saffron cakes and coffee. September 2024, the club hosted a 100th anniversary party. The evening started with cocktails under the pavilion with Scandinavian folk music by the SAC Spelmanslag, of which I've been a member since 2021. A Spelmanslag is a Swedish term referring to an organization of amateur musicians who play traditional folk music. It translates literally to team player. The first Spelmanslag was formed in 1940. Today there are many Spelmanslags in Sweden and across the United States. We play for the Scandinavian Athletic Club for their festivals and special events. We also have played in our short history at IKEA twice, at the Viking Club, and 3 recorded performances at the Shrewsbury Media Connection. And for the New England Folk Festival. Our first New England Folk Festival participation was remote due to COVID in 2022. Participating in NEFA was special for me because my parents participated many times in NEFA themselves in the 50s, as seen by this program in the T&G article with a photo that is titled Favorites at Folk Festival. So Mom and Dad are right here. Our group at NEFA in 2023. The program is from 2024, showing NEFA's impressive 80th anniversary. The club recently celebrated a wonderful St. Patrick's Day dinner with music by Chuck and Mud, dinner, and of course, dancing. A relatively new club celebration for the past 2 years is the end of summer crayfish event. A crayfish party is a traditional summertime celebration typically held in August, featuring crayfish, drinks, and festive songs or dancing, marking the end of summer. Highlights of the 100th anniversary party included a cocktail hour with music by the Spelmanslag group under the outdoor pavilion, with Hannah Kane presenting to Roy Pedersen, president of SAC. We moved to the dorm room for a delicious sit-down dinner with a champagne or non-alcoholic toast and a short talk on Little Sweden, the story of Quinsignmund Village by Austin Alexander. After dinner, there was a special musical tribute performed by the Hagberg sisters, Robin, Susan, and Christine. Their stage name is the Hale Sisters. Their career started in childhood, singing and dancing in the Worcester Children's Theater and the Worcester County Light Opera. Christine and Robin became solid state, and the Hale sisters performed all over the world. They were managed by Sid Bernstein and performed with Tony Bennett, Debbie Reynolds, and Engelbert Humperdinck. They recalled when they first came to perform at SAC, the lounge area was still a dirt floor, so they had to throw down sheets of plywood so they could do their tap routine. And finally, there was Dancing with Dan Gable and the Abletones. Dan released a new album April 6th of 2025 called Let's Get Away From It All and premiered his new show at Mechanics Hall on the same day. And foremost, there was a soccer match. We will end with two media clips courtesy of SMC of Midsummer 2023. First, Mr. Ralph Metcalf, longtime music educator in Shrewsbury, plays the cow horn. The cow horn is used to move cows or other livestock to remote summer pastures. The oldest Swedish cow horn with finger holes dates to the 6th century. Fun fact, one of the many prior uses of the 1830 schoolhouse here on Church Street was police station, Shrewsbury Federal Credit Union, and school department. Ralph told me he was hired in this very building. The Spielman's flag plays a walking tune while the midsummer pole is being carried by the Vikings. These are the Boston Irish Vikings carrying the pole. They run a demonstration of combat skills, Viking-era crafts, interactive games, and a historical encampment during midsummer on the grounds of SAC Park during the festival. The Viking Irish carrying the midsummer pole, which is estimated to be over 20 feet tall. There they go. After the midsummer pole is raised, everyone cheers. Now the dancing begins. We invite you all to the 122nd Midsummer Festival on June 21st, 10:30 to 4. And consider joining the club because you don't have to be Scandinavian, you don't have to be athletic, but you do have to be social. So the Scandinavian Athletic Club, going strong since 1924, with heritage, friendship, and stewardship. We look forward to the next 100 years. On the table are my parents' vintage folk dancing costumes, various Santa Lucia costumes, a child's National Day dress, and my youngest son's folk costume. Thank you for your attention.